let's get into it.
So we first wanted to just start off by introducing ourselves. I'm Lucy. I'm a first year Master of Speech Pathology student, and we're on our first placement here with DWA. I'm a snowboarder. I got very into snowboarding last year and went out and bought my own board and was very excited to get on the mountains this year, but unfortunately that's going to have to wait. And I got into speech pathology because I wanted to be in a profession that was about helping people, and I'm really interested in communication and just had a real interest in it. And when I finish my master's at the end of next year, I'm hoping to pursue a career in the disability sector.
Thanks, Luce. I am also a Masters of Speech Pathology first year student. I'm a skier and I've skied since the day I could walk, basically. My dad is actually a ski instructor, which certainly helped me out from a young age. And this placement opportunity came up and I expressed my interest because I was really excited to combine my two passions of skiing and speech pathology. I ended up applying for the Masters of Speech Pathology after completing a research year at Monash Children's Hospital last year, where I got to become involved in many multiple disciplinary teams and involve myself with various kids, and I loved it so much, so this is where I am now. And working in a disability field is something that greatly interests me, and I'm excited to experience the not-for-profit sector of speech pathology.
So I'm just going to give you a bit of an overview of our placement. This has been a 9-day placement that took place over 5 weeks. So we were here every Thursday and Friday on Zoom. So obviously due to COVID-19, we were not able to get up to the mountain, but we really looking forward to the opportunity to potentially come up and visit Mount Hotham next year and see what you guys do in person. So doing our placement over Zoom had some limitations. We weren't actually able to go out and see how the things that we've been making will work on the snow, but we were able to work around it. So over our placement, we met with various staff and members of DWA and conducted some consultation, and we were investigating some initiatives that we could come up with to promote communication access in DWA.
So let's set the scene a little bit firstly. Did you know that it's estimated that approximately 1.2 million Australians have some level of communication difficulties? Communication needs are highly prevalent in our society, and it's really important that we consider them. Communication disabilities are largely invisible, unseen, and out of sight. Communication maximizes the health, educational, and social outcomes of all individuals. And importantly, communication is more than just speech. It can include gestures, facial expressions, eye gaze, augmentative communication, including iPads, visual schedules, among the likes. And it's a basic human right. Now, communicating with someone with communication challenges can be really hard, so it's really important that you have some strategies up your sleeve. So, did you know that the communication was a basic human right? We've put together, in collaboration with Joanna, a little video to demonstrate the Communication Bill of Rights that all individuals are afforded to. I'll just quickly share my screen and show you. All right. Please let me know if you can't hear it.
Rights. It's the Communication Bill of Rights. It's a term you may have heard before, but want to know more about what it involves. Let me explain. The Communication Bill of Rights is to ensure that all people with a disability of any extent or severity have a basic right to effect, through communication, the conditions of their existence. Beyond this general right, a number of specific communication rights should be ensured in all daily interactions and interventions involving people who have severe disabilities. Let's go to Scope Australia's adaptation of the NJC Communication Bill of Rights now. This diagram outlines 12 basic communication rights that all people have. Starting first, the right to be offered choices, the right to express feelings, the right to understand communications, the right to reject, the right to request information, the right to have access to information, the right to be communicated with in a dignified manner, the right to aid, services and resources, the right to be listened to, the right to be included in social interaction, the right to learn about yourself, and the right to learn about life. I hope this has helped you understand Scope Australian's Communication Bill of Rights a little better.
So I hope that gave you a little overview of communication as a basic human right to all individuals and the need for us to aid all participants to communicate. So I think what's really important to remember now is that not all communication strategies are a one-size-fits-all. The communication strategies for each participant are incredibly unique, and it's important that we understand each person for their communication strategies. Communication needs must be considered to assist participants in their communication in the snow environment, and ultimately we want them to enjoy their experience and to aid their participation through this. So following consultation, we reviewed a range of intervention options with the key stakeholders of our project. The two key options that were chosen were the ones prioritised by DWA above the rest. The additional intervention options were provided in the recommendations of our report, which will be provided tomorrow. We had two resources that we developed, being a picture-based communication card system, and then a guiding and training guiding manual for the training committee to implement. Over to you, Luce.
Okay, so the first resource that we developed were the communication cards, which you probably can't see on my tiny little Zoom screen, but are here. They were just delivered today. So these communication cards are a picture-based communication system. They are pocket-sized plastic cards, and we had a lot to consider in the making of these cards because we wanted them to be suitable to the snow environment. So we've made them durable and weatherproof and able to be used by guides who might have big clunky gloves on and can be often hard to get things in and out of pockets. So the way the cards work is that they are on rings, which will be attached by carabiners to a pocket or pant loop and can be used by the guides with the participants. These cards are designed to promote choice making in the participants. They offer up opportunities where participants can express their wants or needs. The vocabulary, we went through a process of individualizing the vocabulary and consumer testing that symbol and vocabulary that we've used for all of the cards. It was a long process to make sure that they were easy to understand and applicable in the snow environment. So who can use these cards? These cards are for people that have communication difficulties, but it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. So we've outlined in our guide manual some of the criteria that might need to be addressed when thinking about if the cards will be applicable. So that guide manual can be referred to work out whether they will be appropriate in a certain situation. Okay, so these are the cards that we have developed. They come in pairs, so they can be used to indicate whether you're too hot or too cold, uncomfortable or uncomfortable, want to go faster or slower. I'll give you a bit of a run through of how you can use the cards. So they'll be attached to the guide with the carabiner. So firstly, you would show one option and say to the participant, are you too cold? Then you would show the second card and say, are you too hot? And then importantly, you wait for their response. It's really important to wait because they may have a slower processing time and need a little bit more time to think about it and to come up with their response. So it's important to wait 10 to 30 seconds. So there's a variety of different ways that someone might respond to this choice. They may point with their head, they may look with their eyes or point with their finger, or they may even just make a vocalization. So it's really important to be observant and look out for the way that that person is trying to communicate their choice. Morgan?
So the second resource that we've put together was a training manual at request of the training committee. The guiding manual was written to an audience of individuals who had no experience on snow with DWA or communicating with someone with communication challenges. So this is for all to-be guides, and it would be completed in a self-directed learning module. And this manual outlines the 3 key areas of communication challenges, what they are and why do they need addressing, communication strategies to assist on snow, and how to utilize the communication cards, which Lucy's briefly outlined already. The second part we developed was a training manual for the trainers who are training the to-be guides. This was a bit more specific as it was directed at the guides who have had previous experience with DWA and potentially communicating with someone with communication challenges. So, what strategies could you use? I'll give you a brief overview of each strategy that we've provided in our manual in the next slide, but more details can be found in the training module and our final report, which will be available tomorrow. The first strategy we recommend is you need to identify the best communication mode or modes on the snow for a participant. Firstly, you can seek out this information from the phone call conducted by our lovely resort managers who try and get as much information as possible. Secondly, it's really important. You can just ask openly, how can I assist you to communicate on snow? By providing them or the support person the opportunity to answer this question can really give you a great insight to how you can best support the individual on the snow. Now, it might be challenging because participants might not have had any involvement on the snow before, so you could also provide some examples of some strategies that you might have up your sleeve or some experience that you've had in the past of communicating with someone with some communication challenges. The second one is we recommend providing a facilitative environment for communication. So you need to move conversations out of busy areas. This could be, for example, to the side of a run, and we need to reduce the background noise. So we try and avoid having conversations near lift queues or in cafes where there's lots going on to assist the participant to have an optimal communications experience. Importantly, we recommend seeking out shelter to protect from weather because sleet, snow, rain, and wind are really not conducive to great communication, particularly for someone with communication challenges. The next one is we need to provide adequate body and face positioning for communication to the participant. The first and most important point on this slide we recommend is that you firstly position yourself in front of the participant. They need to be able to see your facial expressions, your body gestures, your pointing, your eye gaze. This is all strategies that assist a person with communication challenges to understand what we're talking about and how we can help them. It's really important to confirm with a participant that they can hear or see you, as often people with communication challenges won't be able to communicate this. So a quick question of, can you hear me all right? Or can you see me? Are great to just make sure that the participant is actually able to see and hear you. We need to communicate at their eye level, whether this means taking off your skis or your snowboard and walking around in front of a sit ski or the adaptive equipment and getting down to their eye level to assist them to see all your facial and body gestures, really important. And then finally, the last point may not be permitted in really bad weather days, but where possible, we really do recommend removing face coverings and gloves to just provide them the extra experience to understand what you're communicating. It's important to understand that communication doesn't just come from words. It can be gestures, body movements, facial expressions, and eye gaze with intent. So I think, as Lucy's already alluded to, it's really important that we are observing all the time, looking for some patterns. I often find here it's a great opportunity to just clarify again. For example, you've asked a question if you'd like to go to the cafe, and the participant has provided a slight eye gaze in the direction of the cafe. You could say, "Oh, Lucy, you looked at the cafe. Would you like to go to the cafe?" And providing them that clarification can certainly help you to understand and them to assist their communication. The second one we recommend is for participants where it's possible, you could establish some gestures to use before you go on snow. This could be, for example, a drinking gesture for if they're thirsty, or a shivering gesture for if they're cold. Some things that are agreed on early so that if they do get stuck communicating with words, they've got some other options. Now, Lucy's definitely discussed this point lots, and it's something that we often forget as speech pathologists and in our everyday communication, but it's so, so important to provide time for a participant to respond. We need to be patient and provide pauses after we've asked or said something. It's really important here to read the participant's body and facial expressions to understand if, firstly, they have understood what you've said, and if they are processing cognitively an answer, or if they require a little more clarification. You can get a lot from watching the facial expressions. 2 to go. So this one, provide participants choices to assist them in making decisions. So choices are incredibly important to be offered throughout the entire day. It can empower a participant to enjoy their day and ensure they're participating in everything that they'd like to. The choices need to be both meaningful and available, whether that be the toilet nearby or that they are hungry and that there's availability to get some food at the time that you're asking the question. The number of options given also need to match the person. So whether that be 2 options as they have difficulties providing some answers, or you could go a few more if the person's got some stronger communication skills. The last strategy is we need to speak clearly, simply, and slowly with someone with communication challenges. It's particularly an Australian trait, but we can get really caught up talking really fast. I know I'm a victim of speaking very fast and a lot of people not knowing what's going on. So I think speaking slower than you normally would is really important, and using some simple language. We need to keep our questions short and keep to just one idea per question or statement to assist in their cognitive processing. And finally, of course, we need to avoid slang where possible.
So this is just a final overview of the resources that we'll be providing. So we'll be sending out the communication cards. We've got a set of cards to go to each resource, and we've got the guide manual, the communication module, the guide training manual, and we've also put together an easy English summarized report, which goes over some of the key information that we've identified throughout our project in a way that's easy to understand for someone who has communication problems. Okay, so before we take some questions, we have a few survey questions that we'd like you to answer for us so we can get a bit of feedback on how useful our resources are going to be. So we're going to send it.
We'll pause the recording.
Yes,
we'll stop the recording. And you can all bring your cameras back on. Maybe just stay on mute for now though.
I'll stop the recording.
Perfect.